Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to explore how we actually understand things, how we move beyond just knowing facts to maybe a deeper kind of insight.
Okay.
And we're going to do this by looking at, well, a rather unexpected pair, Zen Koans and the poetry of Wallace Stevens.
Yeah, that does sound like a bit of a jump, doesn't it? Going from ancient Eastern wisdom to a 20th century American poet.
It does.
But when you think about it, both Koans and Stevens' poems, they're sort of trying to shake up our usual way of seeing things, aren't they?
Exactly. They're not really about giving easy answers, but more about prompting a shift in perspective, maybe?
Yeah, precisely.
So for anyone maybe less familiar, Zen Koans are these short, often paradoxical riddles or statements used in Zen Buddhism.
Right, and they aren't puzzles to be solved with logic, like you said.
No, they're designed to push the mind past its usual boundaries.
Yeah.
And Wallace Stevens, well, he was a phenomenal American poet. His work is just packed with these incredibly rich images and ideas that really make you stop and think about how we perceive reality.
So the plan today, I guess, is to take some specific examples, some Koans, some of Stevens' poems, and put them side by side.
Yeah, let's see how they both, in their own unique styles, try to dismantle our everyday conceptual understanding.
And maybe give us a glimpse of something, well, something more profound.
Okay, let's dive in then. We should probably start with a pretty well-known Zen saying. It's attributed to King Yernweixen.
Oh, the mountains are mountains one.
That's the one. It goes something like, at the first level on the path, he saw mountains as mountains and rivers as rivers.
Right. Straightforward.
On the second level of the path, he saw that mountains are not mountains and rivers are not rivers.
Uh-huh. Things get complicated.
And at third level, he saw once again mountains were mountains and rivers were rivers.
It really lays out a journey, doesn't it? Those three stages of understanding.
Totally. The first level is just how we all start, pretty much. Things are what they seem. A mountain's a mountain, a river's a river. Simple.
Direct perception, you could say. But then that second level, that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah, you start to see that things aren't so simple or separate. That mountain isn't just a static thing.
It's processes, it's geology, it's weather, it's interconnected with everything around it.
Right, the boundaries start to blur. It's not this isolated concept anymore. It's more about recognizing the interconnectedness.
That nothing really exists in isolation. It reminds me a bit of that Donovan song.
There is a mountain, yeah. First there is a mountain, then there's no mountain, then there is. It totally echoes these stages.
It does. And this deconstruction, this mountains are not mountains phase, it's crucial for getting to the third level.
You don't just stay there in that sort of dissolved state.
No, you come back. You see the mountains as mountains again, the rivers as rivers again. But it's different now.
How so?
Well, it's with a deeper appreciation, maybe. You see the form, the mountain, but you also understand the emptiness, the interconnectedness behind it.
Like you hold both views at once.
Exactly. Like the Heart Sutra is saying, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. They aren't separate. The third level integrates the first two.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's bring in Wallace Stevens. His poem, Anecdote of the Jar. It's short, but...
It packs a hunch, as you said earlier.
Yeah, let me read it. I placed a jar in Tennessee, and round it was upon a hill. It made the slovenly wilderness surround that hill.
Okay.
The wilderness rose up to it and sprawled around, no longer wild. The jar was round upon the ground and tall and of a port in air. It took dominion everywhere. The jar was gray and bare. It did not give of bird or bush like nothing else in Tennessee.
Right. So thinking about that Zen saying, the first thing that hits me is just the act itself, placing this man-made object, the jar, into nature.
And look what happens immediately. It made the slovenly wilderness surround that hill.
It changes it. The wilderness rose up to it and sprawled around, no longer wild.
Exactly. It's like the jar, just by being there, imposes a concept,
Right.
an order.
Yeah, it organizes the wilderness around itself.
Which makes you question that idea of wild. Is it only wild when there's nothing like the jar to contrast it with? It feels very much like that second Zen level mountains are not mountains. The wilderness is not wild, or at least its wildness is suddenly defined differently.
That's a really good point. And then those lines, the jar was gray and bare. It did not give of bird or bush like nothing else in Tennessee.
It's defined by what it lacks, what it isn't.
Which is how we often understand things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Through contrast. We know up because of down, mountain because of valley. Our concepts rely on these distinctions.
But then think about the end, the jar. It's still just a jar, round upon the ground, and tall. It hasn't magically become part of nature.
No.
But its meaning, its significance in that landscape has totally shifted just because it was placed there and observed. It took dominion.
So it's like the third level. Mountains are mountains again. The jar is still a jar.
But we see it differently. We see its relationship to the wilderness. We understand how our act of placing it, our perception, changes everything. The jar itself hasn't changed, but our understanding of it and the scene has deepened.
Precisely. Stevens isn't saying the jar isn't real or the wilderness isn't real. He's showing how introducing a concept, represented by the jar, alters our perception of reality. It mirrors that journey through the three levels really beautifully.
Okay, let's move to another fascinating pairing. There's the Koan, not thinking good, not thinking evil, right at this very moment. What is your original face?
Ah, yes. This comes from the story of Huneng, the sixth ancestor of Zen. He's being pursued by this monk, Ming.
Right. Ming wants the robe and bowl, the symbols of the lineage.
But Hunan says, essentially, those are just things. What do you really want? And Ming says he wants the teaching, the Dharma.
And that's when Huneng hits him with this question, what is your original face?
It's crucial to get what original face means here. It's not asking about your physical appearance.
No, definitely not. There's another version, isn't there? What is your original face from before your parents were born?
Exactly. It points to something more fundamental. It's like our basic state of being.
Yeah.
Before we start slapping labels on everything.
Before good and evil, before right and wrong, before all the judgments and categories our minds create.
Yeah, like the pure, unfiltered awareness itself. The ground of being, you could say, before it gets conditioned by all our learning and biases.
It's an invitation, then, to step outside that constant judging mind, even for a second.
And experience that fundamental state directly. To glimpse what's underneath all the dualistic thinking, this versus that, good versus bad.
Okay, now, let's bring in Wallace Stevens again. His poem of mere being.
Oh, a beautiful one.
Let me read this one, too. The palm at the end of the mind, beyond the last thought, rises. In the bronze decor.
Beyond the last thought.
Wow. A gold-feathered bird sings in the palm without human meaning, without human feeling, a foreign song.
You know, then, that it is not the reason that makes us happy or unhappy. The bird sings. Its feathers shine.
Simple facts.
The palm stands on the edge of space. The wind moves slowly in the branches. The bird's fire-fangled feathers dangle down.
Ha, opening. The palm at the end of the mind, beyond the last thought. It immediately makes me think of that same realm the original face Koan points to.
Something outside or before our regular thinking process.
Exactly. It's like Stevens is creating this image of a place right at the edge of our conceptual capacity.
And that bird singing without human meaning, without human feeling, a foreign song. That feels very connected to the Koan.
How so?
Well, the original face is before good and evil, before judgment. This song is before human meaning, before human feeling. It's pure, uninterpreted.
Ah, I see. Like the raw experience before we layer our human stuff onto it. It's foreign because it doesn't fit into our usual boxes of understanding or emotion.
Yes, it suggests that fundamental level of being that isn't shaped by our mental constructs, just like the original face. And that line, you know then that it is not the reason that makes us happy or unhappy.
That really hits it home, doesn't it? It suggests our happiness, our unhappiness, they come from our thoughts about things, our judgments.
Our reasoning, our interpretations.
But this mere being the poem evokes, it seems to exist before or beyond all that emotional and intellectual churn.
And the final image, the palm on the edge of space. It gives this feeling of something vast, fundamental, maybe ultimately beyond our grasp intellectually.
Reality as it is, without our spin on it.
Very much like the original face, what is, before we try to define it or judge it.
Let's keep going. How about the koan of Toyo and Master Mokurai, the sound of one hand?
Ah, classic. Mokurai says essentially you can hear two hands clapping. Show me the sound of one hand.
Right. And this is a fantastic example of pushing beyond dualistic thinking.
Yeah, our tendency to see everything in pairs, in opposites. Sound silence, 1, 2, self-other. Mokurai isn't asking for an actual physical sound from one hand.
No, he's challenging Toyo to grasp something that isn't dependent on that interaction, that duality.
And poor Toyo, he tries, doesn't he? He goes off and listens to everything.
Music from the geishas.
Rejected. That's not the sound of one hand.
Dripping water?
Nope, that's the sound of water.
Wind sighing, owls hooting?
Still no. Mokurai keeps rejecting these sounds because they all fit within the usual understanding of sound having a source, often involving interaction or vibration.
Toyo's journey is about realizing the answer isn't just another sound on his list.
Exactly. He has to transcend the very concept of sound as requiring two things, or even one thing, in the conventional sense. It's pointing towards what's sometimes called the soundless sound.
A state of awareness beyond duality.
Something like that. Understanding the fundamental unity before we make the division into one and two, sound and silence.
Okay, now, Wallace Stevens' 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. Very different structure here.
Completely different. It's not a narrative. It's like 13 snapshots.
Yeah.
13 perspectives on one thing. A blackbird.
Yeah, it gives us all these angles. Let's just look at a few sections. Like the first one. Among 20 snowy mountains, the only moving thing was the eye of the blackbird.
So specific. Just the eye, movement and stillness.
Or the second, 2, I was of 3 minds, like a tree, in which there are 3 blackbirds.
Interesting. Is it about the observer's mind or the bird's? It blues that line.
And the third, the blackbird whirled in the autumn winds. It was a small part of the pantomime.
Now it's just part of a larger scene, almost insignificant.
Then jump to 8. 8, I know noble accents and lucid, inescapable rhythms, but I know, too, that the blackbird is involved in what I know.
Ah, so perception isn't separate. The observer and the observed, they're intertwined.
And the last one, 13, the turn. It was evening, all afternoon, it was snowing, and it was going to snow. The blackbird sat in the cedarlands.
Its presence, enduring presence in that snowy scene.
What's amazing is how each section presents the blackbird so differently.
It absolutely refuses to give you one single definition of blackbird, doesn't it?
No. It shows how our perception, our context, our state of mind, it all shapes how we see even something simple like a bird.
So, connecting back to the sound of one hand, our usual way is like the two hands clapping, a defined interaction, a clear result.
But the koan pushes beyond that duality.
And Stevens here, he shows that the reality of the blackbird isn't one fixed thing either. It's this multitude of perspectives.
Maybe the true essence, like the sound of one hand, lies somewhere beyond any single limited viewpoint we might take.
That's a great way to put it. The poem, by being so fragmented, sort of breaks down the solid concept of blackbird.
It embraces the ambiguity, the shifting nature of perception.
Yeah, just as the koan transcends the simple sound duality, the poem moves beyond a single static idea of the object. It suggests understanding might lie in appreciating the multiplicity, perhaps.
Maybe that soundless sound is like the blackbird's presence underlying all 13 ways of looking, but not captioned completely by any single one.
Interesting thought.
Okay, next pair. The koan is about the tigers and the strawberry. Oh, this one's so vivid.
Right. A man's running from 2 tigers, gets to a cliff edge, grabs onto a vine.
But there's another tiger waiting below.
And worse, 2 mice, one white, one black, representing day and night, are gnawing away at the vine he's holding.
Talk about being tracked. Imminent danger from everywhere.
But in that exact moment, he sees a wild strawberry growing right there. He reaches out, plucks it.
And tastes it. And finds it incredibly sweet.
It's such a powerful story about being present, isn't it?
Absolutely. And detachment from overwhelming anxiety. He's facing death, literally from all sides, yet he fully experiences that simple, immediate pleasure.
It's amazing, that capacity. To step outside the fear, the what if, and just be absorbed in the now, the taste of the strawberry.
The koan isn't saying ignore the tigers, obviously.
No.
But it points to this ability to experience the present moment completely, even in the most extreme circumstances. The strawberry is like this symbol of pure, unburdened, present moment awareness.
Now let's look at Stevens again, the Emperor of Ice Cream. Another striking one. Very different mood, though.
Definitely. Let me read it. Call the roller of big cigars, the muscular one, and bid him whip. In kitchen cups, concupiscent curds, let the wenches dawdle in such dress as they're used to wear, and let the boys bring flowers in last month's newspapers.
Quite a scene. Earthy.
Let be finale of seam. The only emperor is the emperor of ice cream.
There's that line.
Take from the dresser of deal, lacking the 3 glass knobs, that sheet, on which she embroidered fantails once, and spread it so as to cover her face. If her horny feet protrude, they come, to show how cold she is, and dumb.
Stark imagery there.
Let the lamp affix its beam. The only emperor is the emperor of ice cream.
So it seems like it's describing a wake or some kind of gathering after a death, but it's so unconventional.
Totally. Chaotic, almost. You've got the cigar roller, the wenches dawdling, the ice cream being made. It's very visceral, sensory.
Not exactly solemn and quiet.
No. And that line, let be finale of seam, That feels really central.
Letting go of appearances, of how things should seem in this situation.
Yeah, embracing the reality of the moment, however messy or unseemly it might be. It resonates with the strawberry con, doesn't it? Experiencing the present as it is.
And the refrain, the only emperor is the emperor of ice cream. In the face of death, the ultimate finality.
It's suggesting that immediate sensory experience, the taste of ice cream, like the taste of the strawberry, holds a kind of primacy.
More power, maybe, than abstract concepts about grief or propriety or what death means. It's focusing on the tangible, the immediate, what is rather than what seems.
That image of the body, too. If her horny feet protrude, it's so blunt.
It strips away any idealization. It's the cold, hard reality of death. Just like the man in the con is focused on the tangible sweetness, not the abstract terror.
Both the koan and the poem seem to point towards the power of connecting with immediate sensory reality, even when faced with huge things like death or danger.
Yeah, the emperor of ice cream, the strawberry, they both symbolize that grounded, present moment experience that cuts through our conceptual anxieties and the pressure of appearances.
Okay, one last pairing. The famous Mu koan.
Ah, Sawazu's Khan. A monk asks, does even a dog have Buddha nature?
And Zazu says, Mu, which is often translated as no or not.
Now, this is tricky because basic Buddhist understanding is that, yes, all sentient beings do have Buddha nature. So Zazi seems to be contradicting doctrine.
Right, so it can't just be a simple no, can it?
Probably not. Mu isn't meant as a factual answer within that yes-no framework. It's more like a challenge to the framework itself.
A way to cut through intellectual understanding, to stop the mind from settling into those easy dualistic categories.
Exactly. It's like a verbal shock, almost. Designed to interrupt your usual mental circuits, as some say. It forces you to question the question itself. What does it even mean to ask if a dog has or does not have something like Buddha nature?
So Mu isn't just negating the premise, it's pointing beyond it, towards something that can't be captured by yes or no, has or has not.
Precisely. It's pointing towards a reality that exists before we impose those conceptual boxes. It's like saying the question itself is based on a misunderstanding.
Okay, let's connect that to Stevens one last time. The Snowman.
A very atmospheric poem.
It is. Let me read it. One must have a mind of winter, to regard the frost and the boughs of the pine trees crusted with snow.
A mind of winter, what does that suggest? Cold, empty.
And have been cold a long time, to behold the junipers shagged with ice, the spruces rough in the distant glitter of the January sun, and not to think of any misery in the sound of the wind, in the sound of a few leaves.
Oh, there it is. Not projecting human feeling onto it.
Which is the sound of the land, full of the same wind, that is blowing in the same bare place, for the listener who listens in the snow, and nothing himself beholds. Nothing that is not there and the nothing that is.
That opening idea, having a mind of winter, it really feels like needing to strip away our personal biases, our warmth, our projections, to see things clearly.
To see the winter scene as it is, without layering our own stuff onto it?
Yes. And that specific instruction, not to think of any misery in the sound of the wind. Misery is our interpretation, right? The wind just blows.
So to truly perceive it, we need to let go of imposing those human meanings and emotions.
Which feels very connected to the spirit of Mu.
How so?
Well, Mu pushes us beyond yes-no, beyond our usual conceptual frameworks. This mind of winter is doing something similar. It's not imposing human judgments or emotions, like misery, onto the neutral reality of the winter landscape. It's about pure reception.
Just taking in what's there.
And those final lines. And nothing himself beholds nothing that is not there and the nothing that is.
Being nothing himself, like an empty vessel. Egoless awareness.
Perhaps. A mind emptied of preconceived notions, and in that state, what does he behold?
Nothing that is not there, so no illusions, no projections.
And the nothing that is?
Nothing that is. That sounds paradoxical, like Mu.
It really does.
Ah.
It suggests experiencing reality directly, beyond the dualism of something versus nothing, perceiving what's truly present, including maybe the underlying emptiness, the nothingness that Buddhism talks about, which isn't just absence, but a kind of potentiality or ground.
It's like Mu is the sound of that state of mind, perhaps. The sound of perceiving without adding or subtracting.
That's a fascinating way to think about it. Both the koan and the poem push towards this state of mind that has emptied itself, allowing for a direct encounter with reality beyond our usual conceptual filters.
So wrapping this up, it's really been quite a journey seeing these parallels. Zen Koans and Wallace Stevens' poetry, they seem so different on the surface.
Worlds apart, you might think, initially.
But underneath, there's this shared project, isn't there? This effort to break down our fixed ways of understanding.
Absolutely. To help us see past our conceptual frameworks, our habitual thinking, and maybe touch something more direct, more real,
They both really encourage that shift from just intellectualizing about reality.
to actually experiencing it more immediately. Whether it's the jolt of a Cohen's paradox or the way Stevens' imagery makes you reconsider how you see something simple like a jar or a blackbird.
The goal seems to be opening up fresh perspectives, shaking us out of our ruts.
Really makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the concepts and beliefs we hold on to so firmly in our own lives.
Yeah. So maybe a final thought for listeners to take away from this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
Consider one concept or belief you feel really sure about. What would happen if you tried looking at it through a totally different lens? Maybe like the sideways logic of a Cohen or the multiple shifting perspectives in a Stevens poem. How might that challenge and maybe even deepen your understanding of it?
That's a great question to ponder. How flexible are our own mountains?